Good day everyone, especially to you, Dr. Ria Kibir. I am Hannah Bertal Paracho from BSHMTA. So in this video, I'm going to discuss about the chapter 11 that tackles about the laws regulating professional congress organizers. So according to Mina Gabor, a former Secretary of Tourism, conferences, exhibitions, trade shows, and other events take place in major cities of the country with sometimes foreign delegates. It is the job of professional congress or event organizers to plan carefully a memorable, organized, and successful affair. So for the learning objectives of this chapter, we have the enumerate the responsibilities of professional congress organizers, identify the laws that govern the business of congress, conference or event organizers, and also provide examples of safeguards that may be observed by professional congress organizers to prevent violation of any law. So here's the topic outline of the chapter 11 showed on the screen. So let's go to the introduction. Meetings, incentives, conventions, and events, or MICE, play a significant role in the business tourism sector, contributing to economic growth and global networking. Despite its importance, this sector is often undervalued compared to leisure tourism. So this study focuses on the regulations governing professional congress organizers, including event planners and convention organizers. It will also examine the accreditation requirements set by the Department of Tourism, ensuring that industry professionals meet quality standards. Organizing these legal frameworks is essential for maintaining professionalism, ensuring client satisfaction, and promoting sustainable growth in the MICE industry. So let's start on the nature and description of business. So this section provides an overview of the business of organizing convention and events, emphasizing the legal aspects governing them. It explains the nature of conventions, the role of professional congress organizer or PCO, and the accreditation process required to operate legally in the Philippines. So in this section, it discusses the legal framework surrounding conventions and events, focusing on responsibilities of organizers and the requirement they must fulfill. So let's go to the definition of a convention. So a convention is any gathering organized by the purpose of exchanging or disseminating views, technical expertise, experiences, knowledge, skills, information, policies, or other related activities. However, it does not include corporate meetings or events where participation is limited to company personnel only. So this means that conventions bring people together to discuss and share ideas, but they must be open to multiple participants from different organizations. Internal company meetings are not considered conventions. So a convention may include any of the following, and these are the conference, congress, seminar, lecture, symposium, forum, workshop, and also colloquium. So let's go to the first one, the conference. So, conference, a large meeting with general sessions and face-to-face discussions involving high participation to plan, gather facts, and solve organizational or member issues. So, a conference is a formal event where people from a certain industry or organizations meet to discuss problems and solutions, usually involving presentations and group discussions. And let's go to the second one, the congress. So a congress is a term commonly used in Europe to refer to a convention, typically international in scope. In Europe, conventions are often called congresses, which means they are large gatherings that usually involve participants from different countries. And let's go to the third one, the seminar. A seminar is a small interactive session, usually 30 people or fewer, where participants share experiences in specific field under the guidance of an expert discussion leader. Those seminars are learning-focused events where a small group listens to an expert and share insights related to a specific topic. And I will also add something that seminar is usually 30 people or above, or even fewer of it. So let's go to the fourth one, the lecture. Lecture is a formal presentation by an expert, sometimes followed by a question and answer session. So lectures are structured presentations by knowledgeable individuals and often used in academic or professional settings. And let's go to the fifth one, the symposium. A symposium is a panel discussion by experts on a given topic presented to a large audience with limited audience participation. A symposium gathers experts to discuss a specific subject, usually with a structured format where the audience listens but has minimal interactions. The sixth one is the forum. A forum is a panel discussion where experts take opposing sides on an issue, allowing significant audience interaction. Unlike a symposium, a forum encourages debates where panelists express different viewpoints and the audience is actively involved in the discussion. The seventh one is the workshop, a hands-on session where participants train each other to gain new knowledge or skills, usually with 30 to 35 participants. So workshops are practical learning sessions where participants practice skills rather than just listen to lectures. And the last one is the colloquium. So a colloquium is a discussion-based program where participants determine the topics to be addressed, with equal emphasis on instruction and discussion, typically attended by 35 or fewer individuals. So a colloquium is a flexible event where attendees decide what to discuss and making it more interactive and participant-driven. So let's go to the Professional Congress Organizer, or the PCO. So a Professional Congress Organizer or PCO is an individual or entity that manages conventions either as an official of an organization, a consultant, a volunteer, or a retained professional. So this PCO means that a PCO is responsible for planning and executing conventions, and they can work independently or as part of an organization. So for the discussion of the law, trade shows and events may be organized by Professional Congress Organizer or PCO for accreditation by the Department of Tourism. So PCOs must follow legal procedures and obtain approval from the government in order to ensure their events meet industry standards. A PCO or event planner functions as meeting planner for hire, handling responsibilities such as selecting event venues, negotiating with hotels and suppliers, managing accounting and logistics, advising on tax matters, and also processing event-related paperwork. So when it comes to selecting event venues, it is where finding and booking suitable places for the event considering accessibility, capacity, and amenities. And negotiating with hotels and suppliers, we are discussing costs and agreements with service providers to secure the best deals for accommodations, food, and materials. The next one is managing accounting and logistics. And this means that we're handling financial records and coordinating transportation, schedules, and also supplies. And the next one is the advising on tax matters, where ensuring compliance with government tax regulation in order to avoid legal problems. And the last one is the processing event-related paperwork, where filing necessary permits, contracts, and other documents that is required for the legal operations. So in essence, a PCO or the Professional Congress Organizer takes the full responsibility for organizing the program, since PCOs operate as an agency and they are subject to specific laws, particularly those covered in the Chapter 5 on the Chapter 5 of the governing regulations. So this means that PCOs must adhere to industry standards and government rules, ensuring professionalism and accountability in organizing events. So let's go to the accreditation of Professional Congress Organizers. So here are the eligibility for accreditation. So to apply the accreditation as a PCO under the Department of Tourism, the applicant must be a resident Filipino citizen. So only Filipino citizens can apply individually for accreditation. The second one is a partnership registered under the Philippine law with at least 60% of its capital owned by Filipino citizens. So if a group of people forms a business partnership, the majority ownership must be a Filipino to qualify. And the third one is the corporation registered under Philippine law with at least 60% of its subscribed common or voting shares owned by Filipino citizens. And with a board of directors that is at least 60% Filipino. So for corporation, this means that Filipino citizens must control most of the voting shares and the decision-making body. And also here's the requirements for accreditation. So the following documents must be submitted for accreditation. So for a sole proprietorship, business name certificate and any amendments. So this documents proves that a single owner business is legally registered. And for the partnership or corporation, they need a certified true copy of articles, partnership or incorporations, and bylaws duly registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission or the SEC. So these legal papers define the rules and ownership structure of the business. Also, it needs the complete list of executive officers and employees indicating nationality, home address, and position, lease contract or contractual lease for office space, mayor's permit or municipal license, latest income tax return, and audited financial statements reflecting a minimum working capital of 100,000. And lastly, additional documents as required by the Department of Tourism, where other necessary paperwork may be required depending on the case. So a PCO must also be located in a business district and should be easily identifiable. So this requirement ensures that the business operations or the business operates in a professional environment, making it accessible to clients and government inspectors. So for the validity of accreditation, the certificate of accreditation is valid for only 1 year from the date of issuance by the Department of Tourism. So the PCOs must renew their accreditation yearly to maintain their legal status and continue operating. And let's go to the last one, the conclusion. So the MICE industry is a vital component of business tourism, driving economic opportunities and international collaborations. However, to maintain high standard and competitiveness, professionals in the field must adhere to legal regulations and accreditation requirements set by the Department of Tourism. So by understanding these laws and meeting accreditation criteria, event organizers can enhance their credibility, improves service quality, and contributes to the industry's overall growth. So strengthening the regulatory framework for MICE professionals ensures a thriving and sustainable business tourism sector. So that would be all for the chapter 11 that tackles about the laws regulating professional congress organizers. Again, I am Hannah Brett Albracha from BSHM 3A. Thank you for listening and goodbye.